This is just a conversation, and I think that conversation does bubble up more frequently in places where you have more diversity because, for example, you know, where you have a larger African American population, which, you know, we're all big boys and big girls in this room. Yeah, the African American population in this country that's not recent immigrants to this country from Africa are a product of the African slave trade. We got here by being sold into slavery and brought here as slaves. So our ancestry is our forebears were enslaved. So when you have an African American population in a diverse city that has to go play in a park named after the general who led the army, who was fighting to preserve that institution, every now and then that bubbles up into a conversation about why is this park named after this guy again? Like, what, you know, why are we doing this? So that's why you have the conversation more frequently in Dallas than you probably have it in Lubbock.
But you know, in some ways, to me, it's a bit of a wedge issue because there are so many problems that most of us want us communicating on and working on and focusing on. And so it's just, you know, it's very interesting that we come at it from different places. I'll comment this way. The only time I ever hear about this is when the national news has picked it up or something is talking about it, and Lubbock is named after a Confederate soldier, a former governor. Snyder, you know, Scurry County, Terry, Borden, those are counties I represent, all named after him. And the only thing I ever hear is, are people going to try to force us to change our name? And that's usually the only time, at least from the West Texas perspective, it even comes up in the conversations. And most of them say, we really want to focus on these other issues.
So I would just put a different perspective on that we can win on this negotiation and compromise together, but removing these examples of history instead of teaching from them is the wrong way to go, and it's un-Texan. Thank you.
I would just mention, very much agree with what the Senator said, but you know, we spend a lot of time in Texas and we think of ourselves as different than the East Coast and California. And this is kind of part of a bigger thing that culturally we like to be different than what we see going on there. And we see a movement of political correctness sometimes going on the East Coast and the left coast. And it's concerning, and we worry, I think, as a state, that we're not going to let some of the issues that happen there come and define us to make us just like the rest of the state. Right. And regardless of being a Confederate issue or a monument issue or anything else, sometimes that's just the knee-jerk reaction of Texans. We see things happening in Hollywood, we see things happening in a thought in the East Coast, and we say, we don't want to be like them. We are Texans. We're not going to do that. And I think part of what we're questioning is, you know, how sincere are some of the things that we have seen? You know, is it a wedge movement? Is it something that's being brought in? Or, you know, what are we doing to make sure that we maintain a difference culturally than perhaps some of the rest of the United States that we don't agree with where they're heading?